everyone. Welcome to Tremendous Leadership. It is my all-time favorite time of recording these podcasts. It is new release day. And today we have our first time newly minted author, Dr. Eliyahu Lotzar. Eliyahu, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Tracey Jones. Thank you.
You are so welcome. And I always like to tell our listeners how I connected with this tremendous author. And that was because of another one of our tremendous authors, Philip Martin, who wrote Tales from Tibet. Philip, thank you so much for introducing Eliyahu and I and helping him bring his book to the world.
Yes, thank you, Philip.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
So, Eliyahu, let's go ahead and get started. Eliyahu's book, if you're watching this video, it is out today. We're going to talk about this book. The title of his book is called Working with God, the 10 Elevated Modes of Leadership. So, Eliyahu, Working with God is such a powerful title. I know when you first sent me the manuscript, I was hooked right away. What does it mean to you personally? And how can leaders today experience the kind of divine partnership in their own work?
Two great questions. Personally, it means everything to me. I'm going to tell you, this is my life's message. I didn't really know it until I started writing the book, but everything I've been working on for decades has led into this. So that's what it means to me personally. Once I clear my eyes here, I
I
can answer
know.
the second part of it. Uh, all right, so how can leaders
Experience this
experience?
divine partnership. I mean,
Yeah,
you have it so integrated. And I had to laugh when I asked you that question because I'm like, what do you mean working with God? There's nothing, who else would you want to work with? So we get that. But I
yeah,
think for our listeners out there, having run this business for 16 years and been in a lot of business many other years, I kind of looked at God here and my professional life here. But you have
right.
come to this realization and this revelation and shared that there's such a divine partnership in their work, and that's really what it's about. So just how can leaders today
Yeah,
experience that? And then we're gonna dive into some of these modes.
yeah. Well, the first thing is to have courage,
Mm.
because I too have had that firewall. I show up, I have my suit on. Well, no longer. I have a jacket on at least, and I talk about leadership principles and management and
Mm.
structure and blah blah blah. And you're not going to hear a word from me about God. And then I said, you know what? This is crazy because I have two me's. I have the leadership, organizational development me, the professional me, the one who has, certifications and experience and yada yada. And then there's the personal me where I have meaning and passion that informs everything and puts any of the work I do into perspective. So it holds the work I do. So I thought, well, this is crazy. Everything I say is about integrity, right? Not just like doing the right thing, but being consistent, making sure all the parts of your organization, all the parts of your team, all the parts of your communication, make sure they all line up together, because that's where the strength is. And the moment you start hiding something, which by the way only leads to darkness, and you do not want to do that. You got to be careful with your communication. Sometimes you don't want to just like, but hiding is a different story. So I've been hiding God from my professional life. And I think everybody does. I mean, the
Yeah.
workplace itself is designed to tell you, leave your personal life at the door.
Mhm.
And certainly, if you have God in your personal life, we've got in the parking lot, not even at the door.
Mhm.
Right? Because it's a touchy subject, because this is the US, and we have people who come from all sorts of different backgrounds, including atheist and whatever. But if you look at the polls, and I'll get back to your question soon and wrap it up, but if you look at the polls, you'll see that most people actually do believe in God, more than half of the people.
Mhm.
And only about six, I forget the exact numbers, it's six on one and four on the other. I think it's 6% of people in the US are atheist
Mhm.
and 5% agnostic, or vice versa, whatever it is, doesn't matter. The point being, that a lot of us actually are open to the idea of God, but we have no idea how to integrate it. So that's where this book comes in. And how do leaders experience that? Well, first of all, have courage, dive into this, and start practicing bit by bit.
I love that. And you said that if you're open to it. And I always tell people, and my father, Charlie Tremendous Jones, was like that. People are like, well, why are you like that? And he's like, because the Holy Spirit. And but if you don't need to work with God to feel fulfilled and happy, and then you don't have to. But as you said for the listeners out there, if you have that openness and you feel like, hey, let's dial this in. And so I want to talk about this. Okay, Eliyahu. So you write about these modes of elevated leadership, these 10 modes. So without giving too much away, could you share one that has really transformed your leadership approach?
I can get ready because the one that's really transformed me is kind of the most difficult one. But you know what they say, no pain, no gain. So out of the 10 modes, they're all easy ones to understand. Like, for instance, go mode. We've all been in go mode, right? The mode called go. And then there's the mode called no, slowing down the go. Hold on, don't want chaos, don't want burnout. Those are easy ones to understand. The one that really, really affected me is called death. Now, obviously, I'm still sitting here. I can see my picture right there. It's okay. But it's a different me. And how do we grow, right? Especially once we're successful, how do we grow? The key for me is the mode of death. Um, and death is not a one-time experience in this sense, the way I'm using it here, which is really death to the identity that you had, which had gotten you to where you are and the success that you're at, but also prevents you from moving further. And it prevents you from moving further, both in how you operate your organization, your team, your project, and in how you relate with God and the amount of God that you can let into your life. So the amount of life that you can let into yourself. All that hinges on death. So I'll give you two examples of what I mean of this like process that really is a process of a lifetime. So how long ago was it now? About a decade ago, I was working as a college administrator, and for several years, I'd been asking my boss to listen. I need help. You have me, I'm doing all these things. I have 13 areas of responsibility. I cannot do as well as I need to do. Hire somebody, please. After like 2 years of asking, the person hired somebody. My boss hired somebody,
Mhm.
and they came in. I thought, oh, great, fine, this is excellent. They came in with I said, okay, great. What's their title? And it was my same exact title. And I thought, that was a little shaky making. And I said, who are they? And they said, well, the truth is, they were the number two choice in the interview, and they are so fabulous. And the only reason you got it was because, well, you have more experience in this. But oh man, that person she is great. She is wonderful. She is like gonna do everything. And I'm feeling like, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. And I'm feeling, like, wait a minute. I asked for some help, not competition. Because in academia, everything is competition. Um, unless you're an instructor. That's a different story. Okay. So I was feeling very bad about this for about a week. And then finally I put on my big boy pants and I said, all right, stop it, Eliyahu. You are done. God must have intervened in my sleep without me knowing or something. But I was able to change the channel and I just said, look, this person is coming in. You go and you make this person's life as good as possible. You do everything you can so that she succeeds. And her success will be your success.
Mm.
It, and so I gave up all need to succeed. And sure enough, after a year, she was plucked up and promoted to be vice president at the college. So, you know, and I wasn't there. I was, back with my 13 things, and I had half an admin that, it was helping me. that was a death, and it is one of the best moments of my life.
Mm,
That, I saw her flower, and it's just the change of attitude was so freeing,
mm,
right? The second death, but death doesn't stop. Just
mm,
look outside you in nature. Is
hmm.
it like, fall time with the leaves falling and winter with the bare trees? Like, does it happen just once?
Right.
Yeah.
Season. Yeah.
On and on and on. But in the process, the trees grow. They provide more shade, they provide more fruit, they provide, oxygen. All right. So this book, well, you didn't know, before I got to you, this book was finished, I thought. And I'm like, great. And I was pushing to get it out. I was also, networking like crazy, and my business was increasing, and I was doing wonderful consulting stuff, and everything was happy, and it was looking good. And I'm like, yes, I finally must be here in my relationship with God, because look at all these doors He's opening, are happening, and it's great. And then all of a sudden, I got hit with a sickness, a disease, not sickness. It's not even a disease. Doctors couldn't even um, diagnose it. I
Hmm.
went to like 15 different health practitioners. Everyone said, from their own little point of view, what they think it is. None of them agreed. And it was very clear that the doctors weren't going to give me an answer.
Hmm.
Some pills to reduce the pain, but basically I was in extraordinary pain all day long, every day, without respite. My bandwidth for work went down to like this. Business development was totally out the window. All my social connections I lapsed on, stopped taking care of the house. I couldn't go for walks. It
Oh
was
my.
so for about 2 years. And the book clearly was beyond me doing anything on, because it was a nice to have at that point. After the 2 years, all through which I worked with God, the typical things that happen when you're a healthy person who assumed his body was going to work forever, until like, oh, very old. Okay, then I'll just drop off like a ripe fruit or something nice. I nevertheless said, okay, why did you do this to me? That lasted about 2 weeks. And then there was a whole process of back and forth, asking and trying to understand, where was I at fault? What did I not do that was right with you, that I need to be limited here? What am I supposed to pay attention to? All these questions that you ask. And little by little, through just insight that would pop up, usually when I wake up in the morning, or when I was up in the middle of the night, because I'd be getting up 10, 15 times a night. Um, Through these things, and sometimes he'd point me to certain places in scripture, and I'd go read them, and I'd get insight. I saw how I needed to change, and each time I would do my best to change, and I'd keep going, and then I'd say, Lord, where am I now? Where are we now in this relationship? And this whole process over the course of 2 years changed my point of view on how I approach life. No, I didn't go from being like, all of a sudden I wasn't like an Eskimo, not like that, but it matured it grew it all through this kind of death to my success.
Mhm.
That first one I mentioned with the person who my boss hired, that was a death to my idea of success. Oh, she's going to be successful, not me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And in the end, she was successful, and I was successful in a different way.
Mhm.
Um, and now this is death to success of what I could do, because I could not do. I just didn't have the bandwidth. Um, and that led to changing the book, changing what I do with my business once I came out of it this year, um, or the last year, really, 2024. And there you go. So, it's renewal now, but you can't have renewal without death. You can't, because if you say this is what I'm going to do, it's not new. It's what you already know.
Mm.
It's just
Okay.
working it out.
Hmm.
That's all. In order to really have what's new, you need a new point of view. And you can't just say, okay, I'm going to go learn this or that. You
Hmm.
can say, okay, I'm going to explore, I'm going to expose. How much more on steroids can you get there if you say, God, guide me as I explore? Guide me to the right thing to learn. Guide me to the new person I need to be. Guide me to how I'm going to experience the world, and then automatically how I relate to my team, my organization, the policies, the people out there, the goals of the organization, my personal, professional goals. All these things are going to change. So, death mode is the one that holds the potential for the most life.
Beautiful. I love that. Eliyahu, so many leadership books focus on strategies or systems, but yours goes deeper. Of course, we know that from the title, into this spiritual realm. And you really did hit on this about what inspired you to write a leadership book with a God-centered lens.
Yeah.
And I know you talked about how it kind of morphed. What is your goal for the book? I mean, where do you where would you like to see this go? Because you obviously have been led to write this book.
Yeah, I have. I didn't set out to write a leadership book. I was just, sitting down at the beginning of when I reopened my business in this new place
Beautiful.
where I'm living, and I'm like, God, I have all these things in my head, and I can help people, and it's all great, and I create loving situations and teams, and I know you like that, but there's something else inside me, and I have a
Yeah.
message to give, and I don't know what it is, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Um, so it wasn't setting out to write a leadership book, but here it is,
Yes.
and so. What do I want to happen with it? That pe that leaders get, meaning understand by reading the thing, because reading is good,
Hmm.
and then by really understanding by practicing, having the courage to trust God more and more, and then trust God with whatever you understand and believe, really believe and know as best you can
Mm.
that He is leading you to. So, what I want, the ultimate goal, is that people can get more, because every leader that I know is either ready to retire because they're so burnt out, because leadership, especially in the CEO position, is just brutal on a
Right.
person. It's
Right.
brutal. I mean, we just have to be honest here. And so, but some are ready for more. But when the more that comes up for them is often another project that's kind of the same. So, what I'm saying here, what I want to see is people say more of, I don't know.
Mm. Hmm.
Now, isn't that scary? Like, wait a minute. I know things, but no, more I don't know, because it's not their leadership. I want their leadership to morph into God's leadership, becoming more and more transparent as vessels as we realize, see, and enact that God's leadership is way better, not just for us, but for the effect that it has,
Hmm.
than my leadership could possibly be,
Hmm.
even though I'm good and He'll use my expertise and all this kind of stuff. God's leadership coming through leaders is what I want.
I love that. And what kind of leader did you have in mind when you wrote this book? I know you talked about certain traits and behaviors, but for listeners out there, does it have to be somebody like a Billy Graham faith or a seeker? And I say that I know I've read it, but um, you know, I know it's big company because we're all leaders. But was there a particular
Right.
type of leader that you had in mind, or speak to our audience about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good question. Um, yes, it's true. Everyone is a leader, because everything we do is seen not just by God, it's seen by the people around us. And so we influence. But everybody has a different realm. I wrote this for business owners, uh, organizational executives, senior managers, people who are responsible for other people.
Yes. Yep, you did. Hmm.
Yeah, because that's because that's my sphere. I don't know.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Because we're always trying to personal development. I develop my person, but your viewpoint is you're tending to something that has a lot of other moving pieces and other people. So I love that, you're very much about the whole enterprise. How do you work with God, not just regarding yourself or your marriage? There's tons of book on that, but your enterprise that you have been blessed with to make sure that you know when to let go, you know when to dial in. You're very in tune to, I love you use the word whatever. And it's not this laissez-faire, but it's like that
Nope.
you realize this is your business, God. And so if you are a listener out there and you are in charge, even if you're a solopreneur or absolutely as Eliyahu said, he does a lot of organizational development stuff. This book is really amazing because it takes into mind the training of others and working with others and leading others, which is what all leadership is all about. It's all relationship. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
You've moved from the
Yeah.
task world to this. Um, what do you think is the one shift that a reader can expect after reading Working with God?
If the reader takes it in, I'm not setting up expectations here for somebody who's, just have to read it like, we'll see. I don't know that this book has that kind of
Yeah.
power of the Holy Spirit that's going to overcome them and they'll just all of a sudden be Abraham Lincoln, you know. I- However, I think what they can expect is a, a set of tools
Mm-hmm.
to apply. And if they work their vision of what's going on in their organization, in their team, in their project, if they're leading a particular project, and doing each mode, looking at each mode, looking at what's going on, sorry, through each mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an analysis tool,
Yep.
but it's also a tool then, not just to understand what's going on here, but to say, okay, God, this is what I see. Now, I'm sure I don't see everything, or do I? It's a communication tool, it's a prayer starter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way where, if, like, some people say, okay, I hear from God and God said to me, and other people are like, well, I mean, like, he's master of the universe. And it's like, yeah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
hear from God, So either way, however, God wants to get to us. So now looking at God through intent, through wisdom, through impetus, through wave and harvest, all these things, each one I can say, okay, God, tell me about whether this is right here.
Mm-hmm.
Show me, how do I go? Should I have this one business unit that is really going gangbusters and it's so tempting to let them keep bringing in cash? Do I need to balance it in any way? Am I losing out in the long run? Am I setting myself up? Am I not aware of what's going on outside? Because, success is its own danger, right? So even if I am successful, I still need to be praying, 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 because the one who sees everything from before it was, there, um, has all this information, and all he wants is to partner with us. That's all God wants. I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that, but that's what it feels like, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he wants to partner with us, and he's ready to give that kind of information. As a matter of fact, that's why I even put a appendix B there at the end. There's a simple prayer list for each mode. And by now I don't remember what the question was because I just get excited
No,
about
just
this
just what they
stuff.
can expect. Well, and I would say as a reader, what I got, my biggest thing was, as you said, you go through each of the modes, and it's very, I like a construct. We love the inspiration, but we love the information. And so for the listeners out there, it's a wonderful. He takes you through each of them, and there's a sequence. And if you get to this, and he'll let you know, okay, but that's back in this. And so it's because sometimes it's so overwhelming and you just need somebody to provide you the clarity and
Yeah.
the boundaries and the delimitations so you understand, okay, this is where you need to focus and this is what you need to come before the Lord with. So that's really what I did. But you really talked about that you go through each of them. But here's the fun question I have for you.
Wait.
What
One
what do
sec,
you
one sec, one
oh
sec,
sorry,
one
go
sec,
ahead.
one sec, one sec. Before you do. So then just to answer your question more succinctly, hopefully. Um, what you can expect is the unexpected. Because God will provide you with the unexpected. Sometimes God just reaffirms what you're doing and he's like, okay, good, get out of here, go do it. But when I pray using those prayers in Appendix B, and I check in with God on a situation and I go through all 10 modes, and even if you're scared of like, oh, will I hear from God or not? God will show up in all sorts of ways if you're just paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I take a situation to God, I get information that I didn't expect. And that gives me sometimes, like in Go, I'm going to get practical information. Sometimes I get, uh, practical steps to do. Even God is very practical. Like He
Mm-hmm.
created the world, and every tree growing has a blueprint. So expect the unexpected when you practice this.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, you ready?
Ready?
What is your favorite time of day to work with God? Sunrise or even pre-dawn. I know a lot of people that are up at 3:30 and 4, mid-mission or moonlight download. I'm a night owl. I do my best talking to God at night. I know, but it's just the way I am. What's your favorite time to work with God?
Oh man, that's a terrible question. What's your
Ah!
favorite ice cream flavor? It's like it depends what day. No. My favorite time to work with God is when I can. There are
Hmm.
different flavors. For me, there are three different flavors in the day. Okay, so sorry about that. I am not getting up at 3:30. Just, I mean, unless God wakes me up, which is a rare occasion. There are three, so I love all three times. Morning, early, before the day starts, I'm sitting there and I'm receiving from God. And it's a sweet relationship because I'm not engaged in the doing yet. I'm not in engaged mode. I'm not in go mode. I'm just receiving. I receive a harvest of love from God, of guidance from God. So, okay, fine. And sometimes the guidance really is, okay, you've spent about 30 seconds with me. You got stuff to do. Leave, go do. Like, okay, fine. Yeah, I know. All right, fine, fine. Um, and sometimes it's not. But so that's very sweet. I love that. It's nourishing. Okay. It's like the huddle before the football game in the locker where the coach is like, hey, everybody, we do this, rah, rah, but then you got to go out and play the football game, right? So you're out on the field. That's the middle of the day. And that's exciting. Can I remember God in this? How do I know when do I check in with God and when do I just shoot out the emails?
Hmm.
It's an exciting challenge. That's, the gladiators in the ring. You're fighting with, uh, this is going to sound judgmental. You're fighting with stupidity. Like, am I being smart about things in the way I do things? Am I bringing God in the right amount? At the right time, in the right place? Am I stopping to remember? And that strengthens those muscles of yours. That turns you into a total warrior because when you get, oh, wait, I should have asked God about that. So, oh, okay, now I remember to up the humility muscle. I've strengthened my humility muscle. And then, sometimes there are other times. It's all different ways that God will say, a minute. Now, just do your own thing. Okay. So it's an exciting time. It's the challenge. And I know that underneath it all, Jesus has forgiven all my mistakes,
Hmm.
all my selfishness, all my self-centered looks, all my anger. I get angry, right? All my everything I do um, that where I didn't get it right. So that's okay. I can keep playing. I can keep fighting. I can keep being in the game. I can keep trying to do better. And it's fabulous and I love it. Eventually though, you get tired, right? At a certain point you call it a day. And then here's the sweetest part for me. Outside, if I just like even take a moment to go out, put the trash outside, or just step out the door, and the whole area is quieter than it had been during the day. Sometimes I can see stars. Sometimes there's a breeze. Sometimes I can smell smells that I didn't smell during the day.
Mhm.
So hugely grateful. And it's like each end of day is like an end of life where you can say, God, this was so good. Thank you so much. That's the time of gratitude and giving back to God. And I think, even though I'm a warrior during the day, I think my favorite is actually at the end of the day. Thank you for asking, because otherwise I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, that you reflect back, and I love the night and the stars, and um, yeah, that's I love that, the after hours and the reflection, and then prepping for the next day. But Eliyahu, where can people get a hold of you? I know we're going to have this in the show notes, but share with them your website.
Yeah, reframedreality.com. Make sure not to spell it realty. It's not realty. There's an I in there. Reality, because what I do is reframe people's reality, so you can see situations differently. .com. So reframedreality.com. In there, there's a contact us. If you do / the book, you can also click on it and it'll bring you right to Amazon. So yeah, please, if you want to get a hold of me, you can do that. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I'm the only Eliyahu Lotzar on LinkedIn, Lotzar. Yeah. Please, I welcome all connection.
I love it. And if you're watching this video, you know today is launch day. So please go over to Amazon, get a copy, get a couple copies, share it with your team. Do Eliyahu the honor of a review. Those reviews are our lifeblood. And let him know how this book has really impacted you. I know how it's impacted me. I asked him to order me 20 so I can send him out to my friends and family. And I just love it. And Eliyahu, thank you so much for the honor of walking alongside you with this journey and sharing, working with God and the 10 modes of elevated leadership. So thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you. Are you kidding? It has been so easy to work with you. I am so glad Philip opened his mouth and said, "Hey, do you know Tracy?" Because you made it easy
Thank you.
because you understood what I needed
Mhm.
and you worked with me and you told me where I needed things to be told and you let me alone where I could just do my thing. So I am so honored and so excited to write another one and publish it with you.
I
So
can't wait. Well, nobody starts with just one with us. You know, you can't do just one. And
that's right.
congratulations, brother. I know God's going to be glorified through this, and I thank you so much. And to our listeners out there, thank you so much for your support of our authors and all things tremendous. Many of you have been, we're coming up on a 60-year anniversary. You've been reading tremendous executive books, tremendous life books, and now tremendous leadership books for almost 6 decades. So as Charlie Jones said, you'll be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for two things: the people you meet, like our tremendous Eliyahu, and the books you read, like Working with God. So make sure they're both tremendous. Go out there and pick up a copy today. Again, Eliyahu, thank you so much. God bless you. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
God bless you too.